Supposed to start with these operation programs first. That's Major Bar and shit.
Exposition is a necessary component of storytelling and filmmaking.
Combat training.
In order for a movie to elicit any kind of emotional response, it must be properly contextualized within the minds of the audience first.
I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu.
In short, exposition is the dissemination of information to a viewer.
Holy shit.
However dry and clinical that description might sound, the difference between good exposition and bad exposition is one of the most consequential aspects of storytelling. There are entire films built on top of some kind of dramatic reveal of expository information.
If he comes up for anything, he's going to get rid of me. But I'm sure Keaton is.
If a reveal hasn't been properly set up beforehand, with carefully crafted exposition, then it will fall flat every time.
How to spot a murderer. You tell me you got the cripple in there from New York.
It is effectively movie homework, and making it fun, interesting, or engaging is an art unto itself.
My guess is you'll never hear from him again.
Showtime.
The fine line between mind-blowing revelation and a boring lecture is paper thin. An effective way to think about the dangers of exposition is to treat it like it's storytelling fire. It can cook your meals, warm you on a winter's day, or give you light in the darkness. Yet if you're not careful, it can burn down everything around you. The actual mechanics of how exposition is used in film is tied to a concept called plant and payoff. The name is fairly self-explanatory, but breaks down a little something like this. Some event, idea, choice, or piece of information is planted in the early half of the story so that it can pay off in some consequential way in the latter half of the journey.
I see people. They don't know they're dead.
How often do you see them?
All the time.
The other component of plant and payoff is that you should never load a bullet you're not prepared to fire. You never want to give an audience too much information. Thus, every piece of information should have some kind of payoff or point to it. Exposition will form questions within the mind of the viewer, and if you don't answer those questions in a satisfying way, then your film is dead in the water.
Is that how she killed you?
So how is exposition done correctly?
She didn't kill us.
Children, if you're dead, why do you remain in this house?
We're not dead.
Whether written, spoken, animated, or filmed, exposition is something that the audience must feel like they have earned. Audiences have gotten very sophisticated over time. Fewer obstacles you put between them and the exposition, the faster they will figure out the ending. A joke isn't funny if you already know the punchline. A movie loses its power when it becomes predictable.
We're not dead. We're not dead. We're not.
All of this is very abstract and ill-defined, but it is in that gap where the creative process emerges. The art side of exposition is knowing what not to say. It's far too easy to drown an audience in so much information they feel overwhelmed by it. Striking the right balance can be a difficult task. This is where a red herring becomes useful. A red herring is a misleading bit of information planted by a writer to obscure the direction of the story and preserve its element of surprise.
He found one of the suits we kept under the floorboards.
However, obscuring the information too much can confuse or lose the audience altogether.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Adrian, we know everything.
Then what's there to discuss, Dan?
Plenty.
Exposition is like narrative breadcrumbs that you've laid out for an audience to follow.
Nixon had him keeping tabs on us, making sure we weren't rocking the boat. Blake found out what I was doing here in Carney.
A viewer wants to be able to make the important narrative connections themselves, without being so starved of important context that they can't keep up with events, or worse, stop caring altogether. Any effective storyteller must be able to deliver good exposition consistently. Where, how, and when that exposition is delivered is a consequential strategic choice. There is a war in everyday life for people's attention. If you want people to take time out of their day to watch your movie, then learn to treat an audience's intelligence with respect.
15 million people killed by Dr. Manhattan himself. The world's punishment for flirting with World War III.
The comedian was right.
Having an audience earn the exposition they are exposed to can be one of the most rewarding experiences moviegoers can get from a film.
So in order to save this planet, I had to trick it.
Killing millions.
To save billions.
Challenge them, trick them, blind them. Whatever you do, just don't spoon-feed the audience the context they so desperately require in order to enjoy your film.
I'm not a comic book villain. Do you seriously think I'd explain my masterstroke to you if there were even the slightest possibility you could affect the outcome? I triggered it 35 minutes ago.